Page 27. Who's pulling your strings? How to Break the Cycle of Manipulation and Regain Control of Your Life, by Harriet B. Braiker, Ph.D. 2004. 2.2. Act 2, Dinner at Mom's. Jim and Sally originally came to see me for couples therapy. They had been in a long-term relationship and wanted to work out some relatively minor issues before getting married. The therapy was successful, and the wedding took place. A little more than 1 year later, I was a bit surprised to find their names on my appointment schedule again. This time there were family problems. Sally came from a small family. There were her parents and one sister, Susie. Susie was married and had 2 small children. Bob's family was considerably larger. Besides his parents, he had 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, all of whom were married and had a slew of kids among them. The new problem focused on Sally's mom, Martha, who always made Friday night dinner for the family, meaning Susie, her husband and 2 kids, and of course, Sally. When Sally married Jim, Martha expected Sally and Jim for dinner every Friday night, too. As she had done all her life, Sally complied with her mother's desires. After several months of regular Friday night dinners at Martha's, however, Sally's husband, Jim, expressed a desire to spend some Friday nights with his own family. Sally felt that Jim had a valid point, so she told her mom one day that they would not be over for dinner on the next Friday night. Her mom did not take the news well. She asked incredulously how Sally could break with this long-standing Friday night tradition. Sally tried to explain that Jim had a right to spend time with his family, too. But in no time Sally felt the familiar guilt for having upset her mother. Martha sobbed softly that Sally would be breaking her father's heart and hurting her sister if she and Jim broke ranks and went elsewhere on Fridays. "We're just a small family, and if you don't come, then we'll feel so lonely. Your sister won't get a chance to see you either, and you know how close you 2 are and how much she and her kids look forward each week to seeing you." Sally, now riddled with guilt, said that the plans with Jim's parents for the following week had already been made and could not be changed. She apologized profusely, asking her mother to forgive her just this one time. During that long week, however, Sally got the cold chill from her mother. The daily mother-to-daughter calls ceased. When Sally called her mother, she could only reach the answering machine. And despite her messages, the calls were not returned. When Sally finally managed to get her mother on the phone, she received curt, monosyllabic responses. Sally was getting frostbite. By Friday morning, Sally caved in under the heavy burden of guilt. She pled with Jim to cancel with his parents and to go to her mother's house that night for dinner. Otherwise, she feared, her mother might never speak to her again. "The silent treatment," she said, "is unbearable." Jim acceded because he could not stand to see Sally in such distress. But his resentment toward Martha grew. Sally and Jim resumed their previous pattern of Fridays at Martha's. However, as weeks went by, Jim became ever more resentful of the manipulation of his wife and his own manipulation, too, he reminded himself by his mother-in-law. He would come to dinner on Fridays, but his mood was surly. He withdrew and did not participate in conversations. To Sally, things had gone from bad to worse. Now she felt as though her mother and her husband were manipulating her at the same time. She was between a rock and a hard place, caught between Jim's sulking, punishing behavior and her mother's masterful guilt induction. Sally even tried asking Martha to invite Jim's family to Friday night dinners, too. Her mother said that she would love to, but that there's so many of them and we have only a small dining room table in the apartment. Sally offered to make dinner some Friday nights and invite both families. But Martha rejected the idea out of hand because it just wouldn't be the same. Besides, she did not want to break the tradition. Jim, in the meanwhile, was starting to catch heat from his side of the family. While they did not have a Friday night tradition as strong as Martha's, they did like to get together on Friday, have a casual dinner, and just have fun. Worse, some of his family began to feel that maybe Sally did not like them and that she was preventing Jim from seeing his family. Martha's manipulative hooks were embedded very deeply in Sally. The guilt and conflict with Jim were causing considerable stress and strain in the new marriage. When Sally announced that she was pregnant, Martha raised her control maneuvers to a new level. No matter what Sally and Jim said they wanted to do, Martha seemed able to override their wishes and to manipulate Sally into compliance with her demands, often at Jim's and or Sally's expense. This is when an agitated Jim and a very pregnant Sally walked into my office. Page 30.